House, a story from the House of Cain. There'd always been rumors about the house. The place was built just outside a small town, just after the Civil War, and has been owned and kept up by a corporation known only as the Green Estate. After looking into it, they found that the corporation was really just a little old lady with a bunch of bank accounts that cared for the upkeep of the house and grounds. And from time to time, the place was rented out in order to add funds to those accounts. Rumors. There were always rumors about the place, according to John Green, when he found out his daughter had inherited the place. The house, the accounts, everything. What kind of rumors? Kate asked her husband. He shrugged. Murders, rituals, crazy haunted house crap. Double-dealing, carpetbaggers, buried treasure in the backyard, you know, the normal human filth stories that exist. Well, do you believe any of it? Kate asked her husband. Look, it's an old house. It's usually empty. And stories, it's out in the country. Stories are going to pop up around that all the time. Country folks love their stories. Kate nodded. You're probably right, and shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. But it started with little things. Things would seem to move. And after a while, Kate decided that she would arrange the table in such a way that she would notice. Placing the fruit bowl in the center of the table and the tall vase with the daily flowers in a vase next to it, she would leave the room and come back. Sure enough, the flowers would move to the center of the table and the fruit would go to the left. She tested it several times and convinced that the house was either haunted or she was going insane. But everyone loved the place. It was like they were rich suddenly. They could afford to pay for their groceries and pay for their long overdue debt, while the house accounts paid all the utilities. Heck, even the internet. John started working for a plumber in town, and they were talking about John opening up another plumbing shop on the other side to handle the overflow. Kate kept quiet. She was disturbed enough to visit the local library once a week to do research. And what she found disturbed her even more. Not a decade earlier, a young man had rented the house and allegedly had gone on to kill 15 people in the living room during a party. The man was never found and still at large. But that was just the most recent thing. There were stories dating back to the Civil War about strange deaths and lights on the property and murders and missing people. Alice and John loved the place, though. It wasn't until she spoke to the priest at the local parish house that she decided it was time to leave and spoke with John. We need to get out of here, Kate told her husband in the kitchen as she drew in on a cigarette. Things have been moving on their own. She shuddered. What? Wait, what? Why? I thought you and Alice loved it here. John. Things. Sometimes, in the shadows, things are moving. She paused and looked her husband in the eyes. Alice has been having nightmares every night. He sat down on a stool. Why didn't you tell me? Well, things were going so well and financially, but now I'm seeing things move. I did some research. John stared at his wife, suspicion heavy in his piercing gaze. What kind of research? She lifted another cigarette to her lips and lit it, her hands shaking visibly. Well, most of the history of this place is a rumor, but it said people died on the grounds under strange circumstances. John sighed. We knew that already. She drew in on a cigarette, deeply. About 10 years ago, there was a mass murder inside here, right here in the living room. John sighed. She looked at him again. What, 15 people, they die right in the house you're going to move in? And you know? I know, he said simply. She just stared at him. You know? He nodded. Look. He ran his hand through his hair. We needed this. Alice deserves a better life than I could have given her back there. I've learned my lessons. We lost everything. But now we have a chance to get it all back. The right way. John, Kate said, stunned. John, something is wrong here. He stood up and walked to his wife. Kate, this is why I didn't tell you about the killings. Your imagination is great, but you blow everything else out of proportion. This is real life, the real world. The priest said, she began, but he interrupted her by pushing her at arm's length. What priest? He asked. I talked to the local parish priest since the church has been here since the town. I thought maybe they'd know more about the place. He laughed. I'm sorry to tell you, but I don't think you can believe much of what they tell you. They've been trying to sue us to buy the house for years. Kate's shoulders relaxed. John nodded. Yeah, I don't wish the old guys any harm, but there's something about this place they never really liked. I know it was a brothel a couple of times, but once my dad told me they even let slip they wanted to just buy it to bulldoze it. Oh, well, the priest didn't say anything about that, she admitted. John sat back down. I can imagine. What did he say? He said that it was built by a woman named Alice Kyteller, who changed her name to Green in honor of not being able to go to Ireland, back to Ireland or something. John nodded. Yeah, I've heard that. Well, did you know that she owned slaves and was known to torture them? That she would marry a man to carry the title of the land, and then they would just disappear? And once people started asking questions about it, she'd just marry another man and repeat the cycle over and over again? John laughed. I've heard all that too. They tell stories that she was a monster, a real demon from hell. She was mean to her children, mean to everyone, really. The priest said she was a witch, Kate finished. He reached out and took the cigarette from her mouth. That's what I've heard too. But again, this is real life. This is the real world. Those things don't exist, Kate. It's just family rumors and stories, things dreamt up to scare each other at night when we were all kids. But you know it's all bunk, right? I moved that vase 25 times and left the room, and it switched places with the fruit bowl 25 times, Kate told him. He laughed. I bet I know a midget in the house who likes to play pranks on her mommy. Kate blushed. Well, I never thought, she began. Because you let your imagine go crazy, love, he said. I bet if we asked Alice right now, she'd come down here and tell you that she was goofing on you. Kate nodded. All right, all right. Are we okay? John asked. She let out a breath. She didn't really seem to know she was holding. Yeah, I guess so. So no more talk about leaving. No more talk about leaving. Okay. Unfortunately, Kate would regret that decision. She was walking through the living room after dinner, the same evening. The sun had just gone down, and the room seemed darker, like a bulb was out somewhere. She couldn't figure out where the dimness came from, though. Nothing seemed to be out. She headed down to the basement and reached up to flick the light switch. The light wasn't the usual dull yellow when it came on, but a dull and sullen red. A feeling of deep and desperate fear clutched at her heart. It froze her entire body in place. And of its own volition, her body, slowly, involuntarily, stepped itself slowly down to look into the gloom of the empty basement. What she saw froze the blood in her heart. 13 women, young and naked, writhing on their bellies in a pool of blood, pushing strips of flesh into their mouths. A man in the center of the pool, tied down to a table, and animals, no, men with the heads of animals servicing the women from behind. They relished and lusted in the blood. The bile rose in Kate's throat, and she spun and ran to the top of the stairs, forgetting the laundry, forgetting everything. Get out, get out, get out. She had to get out. It was the only thought in her head. She made it up the stairs and turned into the kitchen. Movement in the living room caught her eye, and she went to see if John or Alice was there. What she found, it was like another scene from a different kind of nightmare. A boy lay on his back, his head propped up on an old overturned couch. A thing. A spider, putrid and oversized proportions, like something out of hell, sat upon its chest. And when it turned its beautiful face to her, the blue reached out as if to capture her. Kate stepped back and ran for the stairs. They had to get out. Something here was wrong, so very, very wrong. She almost stopped and turned back to the door when she heard something slam against it. The earlier clear day and evening had obviously given way to a tremendous thunderstorm. There was wind whipping around the hall and the living room. Lightning and wind lashed the old large house from the outside and from within. "We have to leave," Kate yelled through the wind, and somehow had come into the house. "I know," John said as he turned to her at the top of the stairs. "You were right." His worried face was sober. "I'm so sorry I didn't listen." Kate smiled. "We have to get Alice." He nodded. "That's what I'm trying to do." He reached both hands down to the doorknob, but jerked them away quickly. "Hot," he said, his face confused. "Something's trying to keep us out," Kate screamed. "Fuck that," John said, and kicked the door right next to the doorknob. The whole thing, frame and all, flew inward, and Kate winced, hoping Alice was out of the way. Sometimes when John gets excited, he doesn't think. There were 2 Alices in the room, in fact. Mirror projections of one another. "Alice!" Kate demanded, her voice rising to be heard over the wind. But both little girls turned toward Kate. One was a bit different than the other, maybe a little less sure, or was the first one a little less scared? "Alice!" John yelled. One spoke, and when it spoke, Kate knew which one was not her child, and she grabbed Alice. "You cannot have her," the voice said, coming from the mirrors, the reflection of her daughter. "I have waited too long for a child with my blood, the right blood." Kate ran. She ran, clutching her daughter to her breast, hoping in the far back of her mind that she wasn't crushing her own daughter. Booming came from the door, even as she raced to open it. As John reached her side from behind, the large front door splintered and a hole appeared there. "Father Roland?" Kate asked as he struggled through the door. "All of us out, now!" the father yelled. "I thought I told you to get out of here." John motioned everyone to the truck so they could hear each other. "Get in." Once the door was shut, the out-of-breath priest said, You've got to go." "No shit, Padre," John said. "What was that?" Kate asked, thinking of the thing that looked like her daughter but spoke like a demon from hell. "Alice Cateller Green," the priest responded. This house, it's a portal to hell. It's not haunted. Over 100 years, it's been here. A ritual after filthy ritual." He shook his head. "It's a spell, a trap." He reached for the handle and popped open the door. "Where are you going?" John asked. I'm going to stop this once and for all. But before he could slam the door shut, Kate asked, "What was the trap set for?" "Your daughter," he yelled back. "Go!" John fired up the truck and whipped it around in the drive. She looked back at her daughter, who was sitting quietly in the back seat, just staring blankly at the house. The priest ran back through the broken doorway and ignored the visions of the young man in the living room and the visions of the vile rituals that the house was trying to put in his head. He ran down the stairs into the basement, into the heart of the house, into the heart of the filthy spell. The house that had been known by many names. Places like the Black House, House of the Rising Sun, Hotel California, and many more. As he pressed the button on the device in his hand that connected to the device that was wrapped around his chest, he heard only sweet female laughter. Kate jerked as she saw a bright flash in the rearview mirror, and then the scene fade into a dull orange glow, and they drove on, knowing the house was no more. What Kate didn't see was the look on her daughter's face. 10-year-old Alice Green's slow, knowing smile. Once again, thank you for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. It either entertained or gave you some knowledge to help you. Please leave a comment and let me know how I'm doing, how I can do better. And remember, always like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.